The night was alive with sounds that no one else seemed to notice. Crickets sang their endless song, the wind whispered through the broken windows, but beneath all that, I could hear the low rumble. It was deep, almost like the growl of a beast lurking just out of sight, waiting. Waiting for someone to slip up. Waiting for me. I lay on the tin mat in our one-room shack, staring at the rusted tin roof, counting every breath, trying to ignore the heaviness in my chest. The growl wasn't real, I knew that. It was hunger, frustration, and fear, mixed into something I couldn't escape, even in sleep. Each day felt like a fight for survival, a fight I wasn't sure I was winning. The smell of damp earth and sweat filled the air. My younger brother, Ebuka, was curled up beside me, breathing steadily. I envied him, he still had the gift of sleep. For me, every night was a battle. In this part of the world, the nights weren't for rest, they were for planning, for worrying, for wondering how to claw your way out of the pit life had thrown you into. My father died when I was 12. The mines swallowed him up. One day he went in for work and never came back. The men said the ground caved in, crushed him under the weight of the earth he had been digging for decades. I imagined the dirt suffocating him, closing in on all sides, and wondered if this life would do the same to me. Now, at 22, I was the man of the house, though it hardly felt like it. The crops barely grew, the jobs were scarce, and what money I did make disappeared faster than I could earn it. My mother sat on the floor each evening, her knees creaking as she cleaned the handful of beans we had left. Her silence was loud, an accusation in itself, though she never said the words. "You're going to be someone," I had promised her once. "We're going to be rich one day." She had smiled, but it was a sad, tired smile, the kind that said she didn't believe me. And some nights, I didn't believe me either. Tonight, I heard the growl again, but this time, it was real. Babu stirred in his sleep, clutching his stomach. He hadn't eaten all day. The hunger was a constant companion, a reminder of how far away the dream of wealth really was. I got up slowly, stepping over my brother, and went outside into the night. The air was thick with humidity, and the stars were hidden behind a blanket of clouds. The village was quiet, but not in a peaceful way. It was the quiet of exhaustion, of people too tired to speak, too beaten down to hope. The streets were lined with crumbling houses, their walls cracked and sagging, as if they too had given up. A sudden noise made me freeze, a soft rustling from the bushes nearby. I turned, squinting into the dark, heart pounding in my chest. Was it an animal? A thief? In these parts, danger wasn't just the hunger or the poverty. It was the people who, like me, were desperate to survive, willing to do anything to get by. I held my breath, muscles tensing. The bushes parted slowly, and a shadow emerged, an old man, his face gaunt, his eyes hollow. It was Mr. Chokudi, a neighbor who lived a few doors down. He looked even worse than usual, his clothes hanging off his bony frame like they were meant for someone else. He nodded at me but said nothing as he shuffled past, disappearing into the shadows. I stood there, staring after him, my skin crawling. I knew what he was doing, he was searching. For food, for money, for anything to keep him alive another day. I'd heard the stories about him, how he'd stolen from the market last week, how some even said he'd taken things from the dead. It was survival out here, pure and simple. There was no morality in hunger, only need. I shivered, though the air was warm, and I headed back inside. Ebuka was still asleep, curled up in a ball, dreaming of better things. I sat beside him, staring at the flickering flame of the kerosene lamp. The thought hit me again, maybe I wouldn't make it. Maybe this was as good as it got. Maybe, just like my father, the weight of this place would eventually crush me. But then, I thought of something else. If I didn't try, if I didn't push, I would already be buried. And I wasn't ready for that yet. Tomorrow, I'd wake up early. I'd go back to the city, search for work, anything to scrape together enough to keep us going. It wasn't much, but it was all I had, hope and hunger. And sometimes, that was enough. For now, though, I stayed awake, listening to the growl that never stopped.